Hello everyone, Jessica here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm playing with some new Concord 9th stamps and alcohol inks. So I first started off by applying a lot of blending solution to a piece of YUPO paper. And then I'm going to add in the alcohol inks. I'm using red pepper, sunshine yellow, and limeade. Just some great fall colors. And I'm moving that around with lung power and a straw. And just getting all those inks moving and blending together as much as possible without creating just plain old mud. I also wanted to add some gold mixative to this. And when I applied it to the YUPO paper, it just kind of plopped on there and didn't move or anything. So I tried moving it around with a paintbrush and then adding more blending solution. And then I just added even more ink to it. I do like the end result. I think it looks rather nice. And then I cover it up. I'm using the new Concord 9th Thankful Leaves die, and this is a large maple die. And I cut out the frame of it with that alcohol ink background I just made, and then I'm going to cut out like the veined part of the leaf in a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock. I think this is the 80 pound, and I just pop out all those bits. For the card base, I'm actually using the Concord 9th Confetti card die, and I situated it so that the die was right above where that seam of the card is, so that it doesn't cut through that score line, and it just creates a really nice edge. I also cut a piece of Neenah Desert Storm cardstock with a Lawn Fawn dot rectangle die, and I'm using one of the leaf stamps that come with the Thankful Leaves Turnabout Stamp, and I'm using Kraft ink by Gina K, and just doing a random pattern, making sure I do stamp off of the cardstock a little and turning my stamp every which way I can. And this ink does look rather dark, but it does dry down. It creates a nice subtle background. You can kind of see that there on the top left. For the sentiment, I'm heat embossing onto a piece of vellum cardstock, and this is by Paper Tray Ink. I'm using Versafine to stamp that very large, bold, thankful word. And then I clear emboss using Hero Art's clear embossing powder. And I like to use the coffee filter to catch all the embossing powder. That way it's easy to clean up and put back in those little tiny jars. I don't have those containers for embossing powders. I've looked into them. I never bought them yet. While I've been stamping this stamp, I actually had my heat gun heating up next to me because it's better to go in with a really hot heat gun when using vellum so that it doesn't warp as much. I'm also going to be stamping the For You in Versamark and then white heat embossing it, and this is on Simon Says Stamp Black Cardstock. And I just use the same coffee filter for both embossing powders. I shake it really well. There isn't powder left into it. And since I have everything out, I'm going to do the inside of the card real quick. This is one of the sentiment stamps that come with the leaf turnabout stamp. And I'm going to be using Gina K inks again in Red Velvet, Wild Dandelion, and Lucky Clover. And I just ink blended those right onto the stamp that's on my stamp platform. Inking up the yellow first, and then going with the green and then the red. That way I don't get those darker colors mixed in with the yellow. And then I do a quick little leaf stamp with the Kraft ink again next to that. Same one I used on that Desert Storm cardstock. Now I can trim down my sentiments. I'm using my small tonic trimmer that I have. This is a guillotine one. And then I'm going to use a scrap piece of white fun foam. And this I had die cut a word out of, but I'm just going to use that to back the Neenah Desert Storm cardstock that I had stamped that pattern on earlier. And to adhere that to the Desert Storm cardstock, I'm using Tombow Mono Multi Glue. This has a tendency to warp my cardstock a little bit, which I hadn't realized. I don't know if it's just because it's such a wet. Now for the white part of the leaf, I'm using multimedia matte glue, and I'm going to adhere that to the alcohol ink die cut maple leaf with my tweezers. Make it a little easier, but the first thing I do is I set it down on top of that die cut completely crooked. So I peeled it back up and then I try that again. Luckily you do have a little bit of room to, or time to move things around a little. And you don't even notice. There's a little bit of glue and I just scrape that up with my tweezers. To adhere the Desert Storm panel to the card base, I'm using my ATG, sticking that onto that white fun foam. And this is going to give me some leeway to move it around in case I didn't like it where it is. And then I can go back in with some liquid glue and permanently adhere that to it. Sometimes I place things and I just don't like the way they look there. But I'm centering it at the very top where the score line is. And then I can place the alcohol ink maple leaf on top of that. I cut down that Thankful vellum piece a little more, and then I'm going to run that through my Xeron sticker maker so that I can stick it to that maple leaf. Now I'm using the sticker maker and vellum together only because the background is so busy and that Thankful stamp is such a large, bold stamp. So you don't see that sticker maker adhesive through that vellum at all. If it was more vellum to this piece, you probably would see it, but I got away with it this time. This Concord 9th stamp also comes with some splatters. And I really like all the extras that they give you for details in these stamp sets. So these I'm stamping just a few around the maple leaf in MFT Extreme Black Ink. And then I wanted to add a few more black dots here and there throughout the whole piece. So I got out my Nuvo black crystal drops and I'm going to practice on that adhesive backing from the Xeron sticker maker. I'm trying to get really small detailed dots to match those smaller portions of that splatter stamp, but I can't get those that small with the tip that comes with the Nuvo drops. So I am going to pull out this Fiskars Stylus embossing tool. This came with those plates that Fiskars had so long ago. But you basically use this tool to emboss your paper instead of running it through an embossing machine. That was a long time ago. These have a rounded end on both sides. So one has a larger like little ball and the other one has a smaller one. And this actually works pretty well just by dipping that into the Nuvo drops there and then placing it right onto the card. And I really liked how that worked out. They don't carry this stylus anymore. I can't find it, but I did find similar ones and they're on Simon Says Stamp's website and they have I think 4 different sizes. Actually very pretty too, but I linked to the one that I thought most resembled the size that I'm using here. And that's it from me. Stay tuned for a few pictures. I hope you enjoyed today's video. You can connect with me on Instagram or email me directly or comment below with any questions you might have about card making. All the products I used today are linked on my blog. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to see the latest videos from me. I appreciate you and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Meh, meh.